So we are in 5th chapter. Piranglo Prabhu, do you want to read this?
Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 7. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijyatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvam api nalipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Through always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport by His Divine Grace Asya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who is on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna. Just as the leaves and branches of a tree are not separated from the tree. He knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches. Or by supplying food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of his being deviated from Krishna. Nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. And he does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore, his senses are controlled. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjuna offensive in the battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjuna was only superficially offensive because, as already been explained in the 2nd chapter, all the assembled persons on the battlefield would continue to live individually, as the soul cannot be slain. So, spiritually, no one was killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjuna, while fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work.
Translation in French.
Yeah, go ahead.
Celui qui est une âme pure, qui œuvre avec dévotion et maîtrise ses sens et son mental, aime tout le monde et est aimé de tous. Bien que toujours actif, jamais ses actes ne le lient. There.
So Lord Krishna is describing here that it's better for a person to work than to be idle.
Alors Krishna est en train de décrire ici qu'il est mieux pour une personne de faire les actions plutôt que d'être immobile.
People think that they want to avoid work, and they think by avoiding work, they will avoid reactions.
Les gens pensent qu'ils veulent éviter les actions et le travail, et ils pensent qu'en étant comme ça, ils vont éviter les réactions.
But we cannot avoid reactions just by stopping work.
Mais on ne peut pas éviter les réactions juste en arrêtant le travail et les activités.
If we want to protect ourselves, we have to work in Krishna consciousness.
Si l'on veut se protéger, il faut faire les choses dans la conscience de Krishna.
So Srila Prabhupada in the purport describes the thinking of a Krishna conscious person.
Alors, Srila Prabhupada, dans l'explication, explique le mode de pensée d'une personne consciente de Krishna.
That he works only for the pleasure of Krishna.
Que celui-ci travaille seulement pour le plaisir de Krishna.
And he will not go anywhere unless Krishna is involved.
Et donc, il n'ira nulle part à moins que Krishna lui-même fasse partie du trajet.
He wants to eat always. He always wants to eat Krishna prasadam. If it's not offered to Krishna, he won't like to eat it.
Il n'aime manger que le prasadam de Krishna. Si ce n'est pas du prasadam, il n'est pas intéressé.
So in this way, devotee always controls his senses because he's always thinking, is this for Krishna? Am I doing this for Krishna?
Ainsi, de cette manière, le dévot contrôle toujours ses sens, car il est toujours en train de penser, est-ce que ceci plaît à Krishna? Est-ce que ceci est une action pour Krishna?
And if it's not for Krishna, then he doesn't want to do it.
Donc, si ce n'est pas pour Krishna, il ne veut pas la faire.
Then Prabhupada describes about Arjuna's situation.
Ensuite, Prabhupada décrit la situation à Arjuna.
Because Prabhupada was saying, or Krishna was saying, that a devotee always pleases everyone. Everything he does is pleasing to people.
Parce que nous étions en train de dire que tout ce qu'un dévot fait est plaisant pour tout le monde.
So therefore, Prabhupada said, what about Arjuna? Wasn't Arjuna offensive to people because he was fighting against them and killing people?
Alors Prabhupada demande, n'était-ce pas Arjuna offensif à des personnes puisqu'il les tuait et qu'il les attaquait en guerre?
But Srila Prabhupada speaks on the spiritual platform and says the soul cannot be killed.
Mais Prabhupada parle sur la plateforme spirituelle et dit donc que l'âme ne peut pas être tuée.
Only the people on the battlefield, they were only changing their dress. They may have been killed, seemingly their bodies were killed, but they just changed the dress. They take another body.
Les personnes sur le champ de bataille peuvent bien être tuées, mais elles ne changent que leur corps, comme leur habit.
And Srila Prabhupada then says Arjuna wasn't fighting at all. He was only carrying out the orders of Krishna.
Et en plus, Prabhupada dit que Arjuna n'était pas en fait en train de se battre. Il était seulement en train de faire les ordres de Krishna.
So that is actual Krishna consciousness. We want to give everything to Krishna.
Alors cela, c'est la conscience de Krishna. Simplement de servir les ordres de Krishna.
A devotee doesn't see anything separate from Krishna.
Le dévot ne voit rien de séparé de Krishna.
So devotees happy to work for Krishna.
Le dévot est très content de travailler pour Krishna. Il suit simplement les instructions de Krishna.
He knows if he's working for Krishna, he's protected from the material energy.
Il sait que s'il suit les instructions de Krishna, comme de se battre, il est protégé de l'énergie matérielle et du karma.
If we work for our sense gratification, there will always be troubles.
Si nous travaillons pour la gratification des sens, le plaisir des sens, il y aura toujours des problèmes.
We will never be satisfied. We will never be happy.
Il y aura toujours des troubles, nous ne serons jamais satisfaits ou heureux.
So we have experience in the material world. In the material world, everyone's working, trying to be happy, but nobody's happy. The result is everybody's miserable.
Nous avons l'expérience que dans le monde matériel, tout le monde essaye d'être heureux, mais tout le monde est misérable.
We have to come to Krishna consciousness. We have to give up the consciousness of the material body. We have to understand our actual identity as a spirit soul.
Il faut venir à la conscience de Krishna et comprendre notre identité comme âme spirituelle et ne pas se croire le corps matériel.
So Arjuna is being used as an example by Lord Krishna to teach all of us how to act.
Alors, Arjuna est en fait un exemple pour nous apprendre comment agir.
Arjuna has to perform his duty, and Krishna wants him to do his duty. Even Arjuna doesn't want to do his duty, but Krishna tells him, no, you must do your duty, you should do it.
Arjuna ne veut pas vraiment agir de cette façon, mais Krishna lui instruit d'agir de cette façon et il nous enseigne comme ça à tous.
We cannot be happy just by giving up work.
On ne peut pas être heureux simplement en arrêtant d'agir.
But we have to connect our work to Krishna. We have to work in Krishna consciousness.
Mais nous devons agir dans la conscience de Krishna, connecter nos activités à Krishna.
Everybody has to work. Nobody can be idle, not even for a moment. We're all forced to act.
Tout le monde est obligé d'agir. Personne ne peut arrêter des activités, même pour un petit moment.
If we don't act for Krishna, then we act for the modes of nature.
Si nous n'agissons pas pour Krishna, nous agissons de toute manière pour les modes de la nature.
And when we act for the modes of nature, then we become entangled.
Et quand nous agissons de toute façon pour les modes de la nature, nous devenons attachés, nous sommes liés à ces modes.
We will perform activities which are not proper. We will engage in sinful activities, and these sinful activities will cause us to take another birth in the material world.
Nous allons agir dans les modes de la nature et donc commettre des péchés qui nous lieront dans le monde matériel.
But Arjuna, he's surrendering to Krishna and he's acting on behalf of Krishna, according to Krishna's order.
Mais Arjuna s'est soumis à Krishna et donc il agit sur l'ordre de Krishna.
And because Arjuna is following the instructions of Krishna, he will go back to Godhead. He will get perfection.
Et puisque Arjuna agit sous les ordres de Krishna, il retournera au monde spirituel.
All right, are there any questions?
Est-ce qu'il y a des questions?
On this verse, anyone?
Oui, Michael, je t'écris. Topolize, dans le chat.
He's going to write me a question, Simon.
Je travaille dans la cuisine et le cuisinier, sauf que je suis végétarien. Regarde.
C'est où?
Dans le chat. Michael S10.
Oh.
T'as trouvé? Ok,
Chat.
peux lire. Je travaille dans la cuisine et le cuisinier, sauf que je suis végétarien et il me donne du travail avec des légumes et légumineuses. Mais parfois, je dois cuisiner de viande et du poisson. Si j'abandonne cette place de travail, si j'abandonne la viande et le poisson, je risque de perdre mon place de travail. et une autre place de travail est difficile à trouver. Comment je dois faire?
Okay. Simon works in a. Simon's question is that Simon works in a kitchen. He's a cook, and most of the time his work colleagues give him work with vegetables because they know he's a vegetarian. So sometimes still they also give him some things to do with meat and fish. But Simon doesn't want to stop his job due to that because if he did, it would be quite difficult to find another job either way. C'est quoi ta question? Ça t'embête de travailler avec du...
Si j'arrête, si je renonce à travailler avec la viande et poisson, je risque de perdre mon place de travail. Et comment je dois faire en cette situation?
If he stops completely working with meat and fish, then he may definitely lose his job. So, alors qu'est-ce que tu dois faire?
Oui, qu'est-ce que je dois faire en cette situation? Continuer à cuisiner
So,
la viande et
so what should he do in this situation? Continue to work with that way, or
well, can he find a job in a vegetarian restaurant?
est-ce que tu arrives à trouver un travail dans un restaurant végétarien?
Oggigiorno tanti ristoranti sono chiusi a causa di Covid. Pour l'histoire du Covid, beaucoup de restaurants sont fermés.
Oh, because of Corona, many restaurants are closed, so it's kind of a small market for job.
Well, can he find any other job where he doesn't have to work with meat, fish, and eggs?
Ok, est-ce que tu arrives à trouver un travail, n'importe quel autre travail où tu ne dois pas travailler avec la viande et le poisson?
Non, c'est très difficile. C'est très difficile.
Well, it seems very difficult.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Krishna will help him if he genuinely desires. He just has to keep looking, and I'm sure Krishna can arrange something for him.
Alors, il pense que Krishna pourrait bien t'aider si tu as vraiment envie qu'il faut continuer à chercher et essayer. Krishna clairement va t'aider, essayer.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Merci. Thank you.
Yeah, because as devotees, you know, we don't like to work with these kind of things. Certainly we get karma if we work with these foods.
Les devas n'aiment pas tellement travailler avec ce genre de choses, car il y a certainement du karma quand on travaille dans ces viandes, etc.
You share some karma. You know,
Le karma est partagé avec toi aussi.
the people who cook, of course, he's not cooking, is he? He's serving, is it?
I think he's cooking. Toi, tu la cuisines aussi. La viande.
Rarement, parce que mon collègue leur connaît que moi je suis végétarien et leur donne-moi du travail comme ça, avec légumes, légumineuses.
He cooks it. He rarely does, but mais tu cuisines tous les combien de temps de la viande et du poisson?
Par exemple, une fois par semaine, par exemple.
Mais tu fais que un plat par semaine ou toute la journée?
Non, je travaille 5 heures, quelques heures comme ça, 1 heure, 2 heures avec viande.
Oh, he does. Mais tu la cuisines tu cuisines différentes viandes pendant 5 heures de temps par semaine.
Oui.
He cooks different meats for about 1 day a week, about 5 hours a week, cooking different kinds of meat.
Yeah, it's not a good job for a devotee.
Ouais, c'est très mauvais pour un dévot de faire ça. Tu as quand même du karma. Tu es partie de la conspiration. He's part of the conspiracy.
We tell even devotees may be living a married life, you know, And even the husband may be a meat eater, but we will tell the wife, you know, please don't cook meat for your husband, you know.
Tu sais que quand une dévote est mariée à un non-dévot, ils essayent de conseiller à la femme de ne pas cuisiner de viande pour son mari.
So, you know, you just have to be, Simon just has to be determined, you know, that he doesn't want to do this kind of work. And I think he can find some other kind of job.
Il faut te déterminer à trouver un autre travail, essayer de rester déterminé et d'essayer de changer de travail. Ou bien
Oui,
de...
je sais, mais aujourd'hui,
Ouais.
avec le Covid fasciste, c'est très difficile parce que leur fermé toutes les activités.
Okay. He's just got difficulties finding something else actually because of Corona and many restaurants are closed. But personal note, maybe he'll motivate himself then directly when he will find one, he'll be more happy to change as soon as possible.
Right.
Tu trouveras facile. Une fois que tu seras débloqué, ben, tu seras très motivé à changer alors.
Okay.
It's always a problem. We have similar devotees in different situations. We had some ladies before, they were working in a shop selling meat and cigarettes and alcohol. You know, it's not very good for them. So we managed to get them another job.
Il y avait des dévotes et des dévots qui étaient coincés dans des travaux par exemple, vendre dans un magasin de tabac ou d'alcool. On a réussi à leur trouver des autres emplois.
So you just have to keep looking and keep your ears open and keep your eyes open and look around. I'm sure you can find some job without contact with meat and alcohol and these things.
Il faut juste continuer à garder les yeux ouverts pour une nouvelle opportunité plus pure, sans viande, les choses très très mauvaises comme ça.
Okay.
We want to cultivate the mode of goodness, and so it's really important in your working atmosphere to be away from these things.
On essaye de cultiver le mode du bien, de la sagesse. Alors, il est favorable d'éviter ces très mauvaises choses.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
OK.
Okay, thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
We know it's always, you need to work, you need to have a job, but we just have to try to find the job which will support us, which will encourage our cultivation of Krishna consciousness.
Il est obligé dans la vie de travailler, mais il faudrait trouver un travail qui nous est favorable à être dans la conscience de Krishna.
One time, Prabhupada told all the devotees, it was in the beginning of our movement, like 1968, and Prabhupada told the devotees they should try to find jobs. And so then they got jobs, but they got jobs in the cigarette factory. So when Prabhupada heard, he said, oh, no, you cannot do that. You have to give up that job.
Une fois, environ en 1968, au début du mouvement pour la conscience de Krishna, Prabhupada avait demandé à tous ses disciples de trouver du boulot. Et en fait, ils ont généralement trouvé tous du travail dans des usines à cigarettes. Alors il a dit non, c'est pas ça qu'il faut. Il faut trouver un travail mieux.
So anyway, please, you pray to Krishna. I'll also pray to Krishna for you, and we'll hope that Krishna can find a better job for you.
Il faut que tu pries Krishna qu'il te trouve un meilleur travail. Guru Maharaj va aussi prier pour toi que tu trouves un boulot décent pour la conscience de Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's very nice that the people in your restaurant, that they know you're a vegetarian and they try to help you. That's really good.
C'est déjà super, vraiment bien que tes collègues savent que tu es végétarien et qu'ils essayent de t'aider dans cette optique.
But definitely, it must be nice people.
Ça doit être des bonnes personnes. Clairement.
Si le Krishna tuait le Covid fasciste, tout de suite, c'est ouvre beaucoup de restaurants et je peux trouver du travail.
If Krishna would stop the Corona circus, then he would very easily find many different jobs.
Well, I'm sure, I don't think it can go on forever. I think it has to stop sometime.
Ça va bien arrêter un jour.
It seems to be decreasing.
On dirait que ça c'est déjà beaucoup diminué.
Do you have a lot more cases still in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, dans Suisse,
Est-ce qu'il y a beaucoup de cas en Suisse? Ouais.
mais il n'y a pas de coronavirus. Il y a un problème avec le Covid fasciste.
It seems like more of the rules are a problem, not so much the Corona itself.
Oh, the rules, I see. Yeah.
That's his point of view, I suppose.
Okay.
Will be go. Thank you very much.
So we'll try another verse.
Jai Shri Mataji, do you want to read this verse? You want to try?
Sure, Mata. If no one is there, then I will try.
Yeah, you try. No problem. Thank you.
नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युको मान्येत तत्त्ववित् पास्यान् श्रवन् स्पर्शन् जिग्रहन् आसान् गच्छ स्वपन् सवन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् ग्रहान् अन्मिसन् निमिषान् अपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियायत्तेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. Should I read the translation as well?
Yes.
The person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Purport: a person in Krishna consciousness is pure in his existence, and consequently he has nothing to do with any work which depends upon 5 immediate and remote causes: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and fortune. This is because he is engaged in the loving transcendental service of Krishna. Although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he is always conscious of his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification, but in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is always free. Even though he appears to be engaged in affairs of the senses, activities such as seeing and hearing are the actions of the senses meant for receiving knowledge, whereas moving, speaking, evacuating, etc. are actions of the senses meant for work. A Krishna conscious person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except as he knows that he is the eternal servitor of the Lord.
Right, so Lord Krishna is describing this verse to explain who is actually the doer. How do activities actually take place? Oh, Michael, translation.
Ah oui, sorry. Bien qu'il voie, entende, touche et sente, qu'il mange, bouge, dorme et respire, L'homme dont la conscience est divine sait qu'en réalité, il n'est pas l'auteur de ses actes. Il sait que lorsqu'il parle, évacue, prend, ouvre ou ferme les yeux, seuls les sens matériels et leurs objets sont impliqués et que lui-même les transcende. Can you repeat?
All right. So Lord Krishna is speaking this verse to establish that the living entity is not actually the doer of activities.
Krishna dit ce verset pour montrer que la personne qui est consciente de Krishna n'est pas vraiment celui qui fait les activités.
Everything is done by the senses.
Pour tout le monde, tout n'est fait que par les sens.
But the living entity, he is aloof from the senses.
Mais l'entité spirituelle elle-même transcende les sens, n'en fait pas partie.
So it appears that the living entity is not actually responsible for his activities.
Alors, il semblerait que l'âme n'est pas vraiment responsable pour les activités.
Then who is responsible?
Et qui donc est responsable pour ces activités?
We'll see in the next verse, Lord Krishna will say that he's not responsible either.
Dans le prochain verset, Krishna dira que même lui-même n'est pas responsable pour toutes ses actions.
So Krishna said, I'm not responsible for the activities of the living entities. They are responsible themselves.
Krishna, lui, dit que même Krishna n'est pas responsable de toutes ses actions.
There are three parties. There is, on one side, there's Krishna, the supreme Ishvara, the controller. And then there's the living entity, the jiva. And then there's the material nature.
Il y a trois groupes. Il y a Krishna, il y a aussi l'entité spirituelle, et il y a, and what's the third one?
The material nature.
La nature matérielle,
Right.
le monde matériel,
Now,
physique.
the material nature cannot be responsible because the material nature is matter.
La nature matérielle ne peut pas être non plus responsable car elle-même est faite de matière.
Material nature has no consciousness.
La nature matérielle n'a pas de conscience, elle n'est pas consciente.
Material nature is like the machine, but the machine has to have an operator.
La nature matérielle est comme une machine. Et une machine a besoin de quelqu'un pour l'allumer, la faire fonctionner.
So if the machine is working properly, it means that the machine operator is doing a good job.
Donc, si la machine fonctionne bien, ça veut dire que celui qui fait fonctionner la machine, c'est lui qui est en train de faire un bon travail.
But if the machine doesn't operate nicely, then the operator, he has to take care of the machine.
Donc si la machine ne fonctionne pas bien, celui qui fait fonctionner la machine, c'est lui qui doit travailler mieux, la faire mieux fonctionner.
So who is responsible?
Alors, qui est le responsable?
Actually, the living entity is the one who's responsible because everything takes place under his desire.
En fait, c'est l'entité vivante qui est responsable, car toutes les choses se passent selon son désir.
The living entity desires to do something, and by his desire, then it's facilitated by Krishna through the material nature.
C'est l'entité vivante qui désire qu'une chose se passe. Et ce désir est réalisé par Krishna. C'est lui qui permet que les choses se passent.
The material nature is acting under the direction of Krishna.
La nature matérielle agit sous les instructions de Krishna.
And Krishna knows the desire of the living entity.
Et Krishna connaît le désir de l'entité vivante.
So according to the living entity's desire, everything takes place, all the actions take place.
Alors, d'après le désir de l'être vivant, toutes les activités et les événements prennent place, se déroulent.
We cannot say, I'm not responsible, I never did it, my body did it.
On ne peut jamais dire que je ne suis pas responsable de telle et telle chose, car c'est pas moi, mais mon corps qui l'a fait.
Just like the man may take the axe and he uses the axe to cut the tree. But then he said, I never cut the tree, the axe cut the tree.
Si par exemple, quelqu'un prend une hache et coupe un arbre, il est quand même responsable d'avoir coupé l'arbre. Il ne peut pas dire que c'est simplement son corps qui a coupé l'arbre et non pas lui.
But someone has to hold the axe and they have to use the axe. They have the desire to use the axe in a particular way to cut the tree. The axe didn't cut the tree on its own.
C'est pas la hache toute seule qui a coupé l'arbre. Il a bien fallu quelqu'un pour avoir le désir et la volonté de le couper.
So in the
c'est pas juste la hache, c'est la personne qui l'a coupé. Dans la même façon, c'est pas le corps qui l'a fait, mais c'est bien la personne elle-même.
The material nature doesn't act just on its own. It acts under the desires of the living entity.
La nature matérielle n'agit pas toute seule. Elle agit d'après les désirs de l'être vivant.
The living entity initiates the activity by his desire, and then Krishna has to sanction the desire.
L'être vivant désire faire une activité ou quelque chose, et ensuite Krishna va sanctionner si oui ou non il permet.
And then it's all facilitated through the material nature.
Et ainsi, c'est facilité par le monde matériel, car Krishna a permis.
So this is a common subject matter which comes up in the Bhagavad Gita. Who is the doer?
Alors, ceci est un sujet qui revient régulièrement dans la Bhagavad Gita. Qui est-ce que c'est le faiseur d'action?
Right? Who is responsible for the activities?
Qui est responsable des activités? Quel est le responsable dans toutes les actions qu'il se passe?
So we should understand that responsibility comes onto the living entity.
Alors, nous devons comprendre que la responsabilité des événements qui se sont passés s'en remet à l'être vivant.
Okay. So I think we can stop now, Vaishnavi. We'll have a round of japa.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Maybe during the japa, if you want, you can switch on the videos.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you so much. You can see Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Bye.
Brenda ki.
Jai.
Bye.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Michael. Vaishnavi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.